Terrie WIlliams, and I'm a professor of ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and I am the author of the Odyssey of KP2. KP2 is a Hawaiian monk seal, and there are only 1,100 of these animals left out in the wild. So when I had an opportunity to basically raise a monk seal pup, I jumped on it. The way that he came into my life, though, was pretty strange. I was on an Antarctic expedition. It was blizzarding outside, and I happened to be near a computer terminal, and I had an email that was on my computer, and it said, "Would you like to take care of a Hawaiian monk seal?" And this is something I had wanted to do for 14 years. I had written permit after permit after permit, knowing that this was a species I felt I could do something about, endangered species. So I said yes. I traveled from the Antarctic to Hawaii to see this seal that was at the Waikiki Aquarium, and in one visit and one interaction with him, I knew he was going to come to my lab in California, and that's where we did our science. There was really very little science that had been done about the physiology of Hawaiian monk seals. Let me back up. If you look at the recovery plan for the Hawaiian monk seal, there are pages and pages and pages documenting the decline in the population, and one small paragraph that talked about the actual biology of the animal. And I was appalled. I felt that how can you save something if you don't even know what it needs? So we went back to very basic biology for these animals and measured KP2's metabolism, how much food he needed to eat, how thick his blubber layer would get if he ate a lot of food or a little bit of food. We looked at just the temperatures at which he could comfortably live, because if I had that information, I could then figure out the critical habitats that he needed to have and his species needed to have in the wild. So those are really key experiments for us, and the science is really 1950s science. There's nothing that remarkable about it, except it's being done on an endangered species. One of the things that we are up against when an animal becomes endangered is that you are not allowed to touch them. Even as a scientist, a person is not allowed to go up and say, "I'm going to do science with this animal." So it took a long, long time for us to get through the permitting process and for this remarkable opportunity to come up and work with this seal. And I think it's going to make a big difference, because we now know that the Hawaiian monk seal is a Hawaiian animal and it cannot go anywhere. It is not like a migrating bird or a migrating whale where they can go across oceans and across the sea and the skies. These animals are pretty much trapped in paradise, in that the temperatures that they live in are warm water temperatures. They cannot tolerate the cold. And the other thing we learned was that they cannot dive to deep, deep depths, and they can't keep going to sea like an elephant seal, or as I said, like a migrating whale. They don't have that capacity, so it means the islands are their home. So KP2 came to my laboratory at Long Marine Lab in California. We worked with him for about 2 years, but during that period, the people of Hawaii, the local people, wanted to have this seal back. And the reason was he had been blessed, actually, by the elders on the island of Molokai, and given the name Ho'ailona, which is a little harder to say than KP2. But he was a special seal in that they saw him as a sign from the ocean, that he was going to tell the local kids, the local adults, what was happening in the ocean and how to protect the animals of Hawaii. So we decided, rather than just do the science, it was important for him to go back to Hawaii. We found a home for him. He could not go back out to the wild. Part of the reason he'd been brought in the first place was he had a condition on his eyes. It's almost like cataracts. were developing. And as much as I wanted to return him to the waters of Hawaii, it was clear that he would not survive. He simply couldn't see. So he's now at the Waikiki Aquarium, and he is truly an ambassador for his species. He's teaching children about the biology that we did and about what monk seals need to live in the wild, and sort of protecting his brother who's out there in the wild. Writing the Odyssey of KP2 was an adventure for me in that it was happening as I was sort of in the process of writing it. So each day I was recording what was happening in the laboratory, what was happening with KP2. And there are several times where we didn't think he was going to survive. And it's heart-wrenching probably to read it, but it was heart-wrenching to live it. So I think that the book comes across as in the moment, and that there is a lot of passion there. The people working to do this science are absolutely dedicated, whether it's me or the trainers involved or all the volunteer students that work at Long Marine Lab, to make this science happen, because we knew if we could do this, we could save this species. So it's almost an in-your-face kind of book, but every tear that's shed and every joke that happened right as the story unfolded. Fortunately, it had a happy ending.
Yeah.
we didn't know, the publisher didn't know, and it worked out great. I have the best job in the world. I'm a scientist that works on big mammals. So we have a variety of things going on. We're still working on monk seals. We've returned KP2, and within a month we had KE18, who I call Pirate. He is an adult male wild monk seal. He had to be removed from the wild because he was actually killing members of his own species. He was killing pups, he was killing adult females, and something had to happen with him. So he's at my lab, and when he arrived, it was quite the scene. He was just a massive animal, huge head. You know, I don't want to say we were scared of him, but you didn't know. This was a killer seal that came in. And he's turned out to be the most confident, mildest animal that we've worked with, absolutely brilliant. And we're repeating the kinds of experiments we did with KP2, who was a youngster, now with an adult KE18.